Hello and welcome to the Kitson SWCD Christmas Tree Lesson. I'm Heather Donahoe and let's get started. By a show of hands, who all has a Christmas tree? Also by a show of hands, who has decorated that Christmas tree? Did you know that Christmas trees are a special kind of tree called an evergreen? Evergreens held special meaning for many ancient civilizations. Egyptians, Druids, Celts, Romans, and early Scandinavian people all used evergreens to help them decorate around the solstice. The solstice is the shortest day and longest night of the year. Do you know who the Scandinavian people are? They are sometimes called Vikings, and they come from the land that makes up the modern-day countries of Denmark, Norway, and Sweden. They share many cultural practices. Many of the Minnesotans who live here today are descended from the Scandinavian people. You might be descended from them too. The practice of Christmas trees, as we know it, began in Germany in the 16th century by people who may have looked a little bit like this. And the trees would have looked a little bit like this. They built them up on pyramids of wood and decorated them with apples, nuts, marzipan cookies, and brightly dyed strings of popcorn, nuts, and berries. In America, Christmas trees were seen as a pagan symbol, and very few people put them up, although many German settlers still quietly continued the tradition. In fact, in Massachusetts, there was a law that banned any celebration of Christmas aside from a church service on December 25th. These views began to change when in 1846, Queen Victoria and her husband, Prince Albert, were pictured with their family around a Christmas tree. This illustration appeared in many of the popular magazines of the time. After that, the Christmas trees rose in popularity until about the 1890s, when most Americans celebrated Christmas with a tree in their home. Unlike the Europeans, whose Christmas trees tended to be about 4 feet tall, the Americans liked to celebrate with a Christmas tree that reached from floor to ceiling. These early Americans would decorate with homemade Christmas ornaments. And while the decorations may have changed over the years, the Christmas tree is still one of the most popular winter holiday traditions. Go around the room and share with your class one of your favorite things about the winter holiday season. Remember, we said before that Christmas trees are a type of tree called an evergreen. Now I want you to discuss with your class what the difference is between a tree in the summer and a tree in the winter. I hope some of you said that trees lose their leaves in the winter. But do all trees lose their leaves? No, some of them stay green all year round. Can you think of any trees around your house that stay green all year? Some common types of evergreens are pine, spruce, and fir. Evergreens can also be called conifers. Conifers are any tree that has needle-like leaves and produces cones. There are many different types of conifers, but today we're just going to focus on pine, spruce, and fir. An easy way to remember the difference between these three is that pines come in packets, spruces are square, and firs are flat and friendly. Now we have 3 samples in front of us. We have to decide which one's the pine, which one's the spruce, and which one's the fir. Take a few minutes to explore the samples in front of you. Try doing things like smelling the sample. See if it has a distinctive scent. Is each scent different, or do they all smell alike? Texture. Touch the needles and see how they feel. Are they pokey? Are they smooth? Are they flat? Are they soft? Go ahead and feel the twigs as well. See if they are pokey or if they are smooth. You can also measure the needles as well and see if they are borne singly on the twig or if they come in packets. If they come in packets, count how many needles are in that packet. Have fun exploring and make lots of observations. The first question to ask yourself is, are these samples all from an evergreen? Do they have needles? Yes, all 3 of these samples have needle-like leaves, which makes all 3 of them evergreens. We're going to set aside sample number 2 and 3 at this time. We're going to start with sample number 1. The first thing to do is measure the needles. I'm going to pluck one of the needles off. And measure it. My needle is about 1.5 inches. So the next thing to do is to ask yourself, does it come in packets? Yes, the needles do come in packets on the stem. So, which of our tree species come in packets? Pine. Pine come in packets. So this is a pine sample. I know that this is a jack pine sample. I know this because when I count the number of needles in the packet, there should be 2 needles. And on my sample, there are. Also, these are fairly short needles at just about 1.5 inches. Another way that I can identify that this is a jack pine is its location. It lives here in northwestern Minnesota, and jack pines are native to northwestern Minnesota. The cone is also an indicator of what type of tree this is. Jack pines tend to have tightly curled, closed up cones until they encounter fire. Jack pine are what's called a fire-dependent species. It means they need occasional fires to be able to reproduce and grow healthy. Whenever a fire disturbs the area that jack pine live in, these cones pop open and release all of their seeds. So this is the difference between a jack pine that hasn't seen fire and one that has. Jack pines can grow anywhere from 70 to 100 feet tall, and they're commonly used to make paper and lumber. Let's move on to sample number 2. The first question to ask yourself is, are the needles borne individually, or do they come in packets? They're borne individually on the stem. The next thing to check, are the needles around the stem, or are they flat? These needles are borne around the stem. The third thing to check, take a needle off the stem. Try to roll it in your fingers. Does it roll easily or is it difficult to roll? Does it feel like there are ridges or does it feel flat between your fingers? I find that the needle easily rolls between my fingers and I feel ridges on it. This means that the needles are square. Which species has square needles? Spruces. Spruces are square. This is a spruce. It is a white spruce, to be exact. I know that this is a white spruce because it has bluish-green needles. Also, I know that it is a white spruce because it grows in northwestern Minnesota. They are native to this area. White spruce can grow 80 to 140 feet tall. They are nicknamed the skunk spruce. Their wood is used to make sounding boards for violins and pianos. They are also used, at least their roots were used, to make baskets and to help lace birch bark canoes. Now we're going to move on to sample number 3. The first question to ask is, are the needles born individually or do they come in packets? They are born individually. The second question to ask, do the needles go all the way around the stem? No, they don't. All of the needles point upward and are born from either side of the stem. The third thing to ask yourself, how does the sample feel? Is it pokey or is it soft? I find it soft. The fourth thing is to take a needle off. Does it roll easily between your fingers or is it flat and difficult to move? It's flat. Which of our 3 species are flat and friendly? Firs. Firs are flat and friendly. This is a fir. This is specifically a balsam fir. I know that this is a balsam fir because on the trunk of this tree are blisters that are filled with resin. Those blisters are particular to this kind of fir. Also, the smell of a balsam fir is very distinctive. Many people call that the Christmas tree smell. Many candles at this time of year are scented to smell like balsam. Balsams are also native to this area, so that's another reason why I know this is a balsam fir. Balsam firs are fragrant. They are usually 40 to 60 feet tall. They were nicknamed the blister pine. This is because of the blisters filled with resin that are found along their trunk. The resin from balsam firs used to be used as a candy before chewing gum was invented. So to recap, which tree species has needles that are born in packets? Pine trees. Pine trees have needles that come in packets. Which tree species has square needles? Spruce. Spruces are square. And which tree species is flat and friendly? Fir. Firs are flat and friendly. Pines come in packets. Spruces are square and firs are flat and friendly. If you have a Christmas tree, go home and try to find out if your Christmas tree is a pine, spruce, or a fir. Thank you very much for joining us today. I hope you had fun identifying your trees. I hope that you go out and identify some more.